tell me what got gun on that dirt.
Yo, if I were podcasting, it would be insane. Knowledge flowing like the sweetest rain. Professor Bear on the mic, spreading wisdom wide. A bear's thoughts, that's my pride, can't hide.
With the voices in your ear, changing the game.
If I rule podcasting, every thought we'd ignite. In a world of chatter, we'll spark in the fight. With Professor Bear, we're climbing to new heights. A Bear's Thoughts podcast, shining bright in the night. Topics from the heart, never sounding the same. Got laughs and debates, never dull or bland. From culture to tech, take you by the hand. Join the ride with us, feel the vibe expand. With every episode, we shine that beginnings on the cusp. Not too old to adjust. Old dog, new tricks. Remember, I was just a pup. Something dirty in my cup. Clean soul.
So tune in, don't miss what we got to share. If I rule podcasting, I spread the love everywhere.
Welcome, and thank you for joining me today. I am Professor Bear, and this is A Bear's Thoughts. And we are having an amazing year. In this short time of 2026, I have had some super amazing guests, and getting to learn the journeys of other podcasters have been way more fun than I could really even imagine. And today my guest is from the UK, and I always enjoy getting a different perspective of wrestling and podcasting from a different country. So it is my honor and my pleasure to introduce everyone to my friend Bobby. Bobby, how are you doing today, sir?
Hello, how are we getting on? I must say, first off, thank you very much for having me on as well. I massively am a fan of the intro that was just played to this. Very catchy tune and very easy to get into. And pleasure to be here. Honestly, thank you very much for having me on. And glad to be a part of this wrestling appreciation month. So thank you very much.
So let me do a quick backstory. So I started on last Friday with this, and I have a weird thought pattern. So I did the first 2 episodes, and I got to thinking, what separates these from any other if people are trying to catch up or want to see something different? I'm like, hey, I should have came up with a different intro for this special. So then I'm like, okay. And I was listening to some old 80s hip hop, and I heard this song called If I Ruled the World. And I thought to myself, man, that would be cool if I put If I Rule Podcast. So I came up with the concept, got it. They came up with the song and music, and we went from there. So I enjoy it myself because sometimes I actually sit and listen to what he's saying, and I get a big chuckle out of it.
Well, it's definitely a lot better than the intro to the Nerdic Pro Podcast, and like I can't say that much. So yeah, so
So I'm going to start with a question I always start with for all of my guests. What got you into pro wrestling?
So rewinding, as you can tell, I failed my maths exams at school, so I can't tell you how many years ago. So 2009, to be precise. This was Mania season of 2009, which would have been 25, I want to say. I believe this was the first year of The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels. Now, at that point, I had not long turned 4 years old because I was born in November of 2004. Right? And at that point in my life, I was massively obsessed with Power Rangers, to the point where I literally saw Power Rangers as a religion, right? And I was obsessed with it that much. Anywho, as any 4-year-old does, you start flicking through the channels on the TV and what have you, and randomly come across some sporting channel like over here. It might have been Sky or something, or BT, or one of the sporting channels that are WWE on. And I can't remember what exactly it was, but it was one of the build-up moments to the Shawn Michaels Undertaker match at Mania 25. And at that point, seeing the Undertaker for the first time, I legitimately thought that the Undertaker was the brother of the original Power Rangers villain, Rita Repulsa, right? And so, yeah, because of that, and because of my absolute addiction to Power Rangers, I got into wrestling through that, and and I was like, my God, this is like the best thing that I've ever seen. And then, started watching Raw every week, started watching SmackDown every week, kept up with all the pay-per-views, and yeah, my love just literally grew from there. I want to say it was 2011, something like that, 2012, that I first got into TNA. And this was when Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff, etc., were still in TNA. And I vaguely remember Bubba Ray Dudley as the TNA World Champ, and when Austin Aries was unmasked as Suicide, and the Aces and Eights, etc. Right. And yeah, and then through TNA, I then ended up getting into New Japan, Ring of Honor, and then there's a local company to me called Falling Star Wrestling, based out of Kings Lynn, here in Norfolk. Coincidentally, Nick Aldis is from about 8 miles up the road from me. Right?
Oh, wow.
Coincidentally, we went to the same high school. And,
that's even cooler.
Yeah, so where I live in Hunstanton, so Nick grew up in a village called Docking, which is about 9 miles, if that, just up the road. And he spent a lot of time like in my hometown, and he was born in Kings Lynn, which is where he's billed from, and what have you. Which Kings Lynn's about 15 miles up the road, and that's our closest sort of major town, if you want to call it that. And Nick started up round here, and coincidentally, he started up in the town hall here in Hunstanton. He had his first ever match there, wrestling for Paige's family, WAW. Oh, okay. And Falling Star, I'd been following them literally since day one. I was at the first ever show at this big leisure centre in Kings Lynn called Linsport, and coincidentally on that very same show, I don't know if you can still mention the bloke, but was a very young what's his face? Marty Scurll, who was obviously part of the Bullet Club, Ring of Honor, New Japan, etc. Obviously, he went on to become, a fairly big name like in wrestling. And yeah, there were people like Johnny Storm on the show as well. He's a British wrestling legend, worked for companies like TNA, challenged for the X Division title in TNA, obviously worked for companies like Ring of Honor, and like various other people from the Falling Star Academy as well. A couple of the people on it, Marcus and Lewis, like they don't wrestle anymore, but Lewis's stepdaughter, Zerin, is one of my long term friends. We've been friends since years, right? And him and his brother Marcus started training with Falling Star, and that's sort of how I started going to Falling Star through them, wrestling on shows, etc. And the bloke who owns Falling Star, Jimmy, he used to work in a pub here in Hunstanton many years ago. Nick Aldis used to work at that same pub as well years ago, and so that was fun. And so that's sort of how I first got into wrestling. And as much as I'm still a Power Rangers fan, I see wrestling more as a religion now as what I did when I was a kid. You know what I mean? And wrestling is just the best thing ever. And so
that is so cool. And funny and coincidentally, where I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee, the same hometown of Bianca Belair and Ivy Niles. I actually went to the same school as Bianca. Okay. And funny enough, my brothers and sisters went to school with her father. So family, and I went to school, and my classmate was a cousin. So I have a lot of ties with her, which is super cool. And it's amazing because when you see any star that you associate with do anything big, you feel like they're doing it for you too. You had just a little to help them.
I mean, it kind of made me laugh because the high school that Nick Aldis went to, obviously I went to the same one, and quite a few of the teachers that taught Nick also taught me, right? And so they were still there and what have you, and I sort of hold that as a bit of a claim to fame, and
I definitely understand that. So, how do you transfer, go from wrestling fan and into the business to doing podcasting?
So, rewinding back to COVID, when schools over here had to close, obviously due to COVID, literally just to give myself something to do. I'm obviously through going to Falling Star Wrestling, got to become quite friendly with a few of the wrestlers and what have you, and reached out to some of them over lockdown and was do you fancy doing a couple of interviews? But I had the idea to start up a podcast and what have you through a couple of mates of mine who I was still going to school with, and and then thankfully I obviously had the contacts through Falling Star, and had a few guys on from Falling Star. Went back to school, took a bit of a hiatus from it for a few months because this was going into my last year of high school. My exams had been cancelled, but everything was being done through coursework and what have you, and I wanted to sort of get everything focused on all that. And then it was literally just a little mini idea just to have something to do whilst not having anything to do, whilst being cooped up indoors all day.
Right.
Because at that point, I was very big on, obviously, like a lot of things I was doing was, listening to podcasts and what have you, just to literally give myself something to do. Because obviously, lockdown, COVID, etc. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, 5-6 years later, I'm still here. And like I've had some people sort of come and go when it comes to being on the podcast as like a team member, if you want to call it that. And like the people that I've got there now, honestly, I couldn't ask for a better set of people around me. Do you know what I mean? Richie, he does a lot of the music podcasts, bringing on like bands and what have you. He's been like an absolute godsend. The general manager, like Stuart, we've had a bit of a feud, if you want to call it that, like on the podcast. Quizzes and what have you. Like he wanted to, obviously all kayfabe and what have you. Like I wanted to like take a podcast and what have you. Blah blah blah. Stuart, he's a laugh. Tommy, Rump, he does a lot of football podcasts. Tommy Lambert, he's a radio host based out of Ipswich here in England. And Justin Summers from Ireland Pro Wrestling. Me and him are starting up a Pokemon series soon. And doing the Nerdic Pro podcast has literally been something that I only wanted to do for a couple of months, just to keep myself sane during COVID. And it's sort of become something that has physically got me involved in wrestling, working on shows as a ref, and then working with people like yourself and with no end of big names in the wrestling business. You know what I mean? Something that I never thought I would have ended up doing. And here we are. So yeah.
So when you and like you said, you never thought you would be where you are today. But when you came up with the concept and you were like, okay, I'm going to do this, were you mindful of you wanted to be different than just any other wrestling podcast?
So with the name, the Nerdic Pro Podcast, obviously that's not definitive to any particular genre of anything, if you want to call it that. I originally wanted to start it just as a wrestling-based podcast, right? And then I thought, well, the term nerdic, obviously through being calling myself like a nerd and what have you, a lot of people wouldn't consider being a nerd as being a wrestling fan. So I thought, I can sort of do podcasts about various different things, when it comes to, stuff, whether it be football, gaming, Pokemon, Dragon Ball, whatever. Do you know what I mean? And
right.
Obviously, fundamentally, the Nerdic Pro Podcast is a wrestling-based podcast. But throughout the years, there have been no end of other series of podcasts and what have you. So I think having different topics, if you want to call it that, based like different topics and what have you for the podcast, that could branch us out to different markets, branch us out to different sets of people. Do you know what I mean? Because I think like a lot of wrestling podcasts are the same, where you bring someone on and like that same person would have done 10 podcasts within the same month, and what have you. And it's just like they're getting asked the exact same questions time and time again. Whereas I think doing like as well, seeing people like review Raw, yes, obviously people have different opinions and what have you, of wrestling, like what their sort of review is of, your Raws, your SmackDowns, your NXTs, your Dynamites, your Collisions, your Ring of Honors, your Impacts, etc. Do you know what I mean? But I think a lot of wrestling podcasts are the same, where they literally, talking about the same thing and what have you. But I think, without trying to toot my own horn, I think coming from somebody who referees throughout the UK, I can then review these smaller shows to a wider audience, bring these, smaller promoters on and what have you, and give people a platform to speak on, and like, do you know what I mean? And then put their faces amongst different markets who also follow us from different walks of life, if you know what I mean, through the Pokemon side of things, the football, the music, the gaming. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, so
that, and honestly, I love that, and I have a kind of similar path. Not now, I stick into the wrestling genre, but I try to give the smaller talent a chance to get out and get people to learn about them. And sometimes you listen to these younger guys and girls and you connect with them. So now I've connected with this person. Let me see how they wrestle. So now I'm connected to a new talent. It's a new promotion that I never heard of. Now I get to see more new talent, and they're young, so they're trying to make a name for themselves. And then sometimes you get older veterans that are there that you, as a kid, may have loved, and they're still in the business. So you get so many different aspects, and it's not just, like you said, it's not just the TNAs or the WWEs or the AEWs, but and it gives so much of a chance for them to grow. And then, just like some of them never did a podcast, so it gives them a chance to see what to expect when they sit down with people, maybe get themselves together, because some wrestlers you interview, they rather do it in character. So okay, it'll help build your character, we can do that. Or maybe they just want to give their background and be serious, and that's fine. So and on top of that, you never know who's watching your podcast.
Exactly.
And like, oh, that I like that kid. Let me do some research. Because and we had talked before. I had reached out to you and we were talking, and you're like, I've seen your podcast. I'm like, no freaking way. You saw my podcast in UK. I've seen a few of them. And for me, that was mind-blowing. Wow. I actually have a reach.
I mean, I'm at that stage now where whenever I'm booked on a show to ref, I now regularly get people come up to me, whether it be wrestlers, whether it be fans. Bear in mind, I'm not a wrestler, right? It's literally just like the referee that I do, and like I'm getting people come up to me being like, "Oh yeah, liked your podcast the other day. Like I've just subscribed to it, just followed you like on Facebook, blah blah blah, like that sort of thing." Getting pictures with people, and I'm now at that point now where I'm starting to get more cheers from the crowd than the actual people wrestling. You know what I mean? And, and it's like, what on earth? And like I regularly ref people who literally only work crowds of like 40, 50 people tops. And I think they're a lot better than the people that you see in, WWE, AEW, TNA, whatever. They're criminally underused. So I think by bringing them on to a podcast, because it's like they may not have the what's the word? Like they may be like too anxious, if you want to call it that, to put themselves out there like a wider audience. So I try to help them out through, like yourself, bringing them on. And people have been booked at other shows because of me, because of seeing Joe Schmo on a podcast. Do you know what I mean? And it's you know, so it's like I've done my bit to try and help someone who I think should be wrestling every single weekend, you know, every single show possible, because I think they're head and shoulders above everyone else on that card. Do you know what I mean? And like if I could do that for someone, I think I've done my job properly as a podcast host. Do you know what I mean? You know, because it's not just getting into like the background of who that person is, you know, because ideally, I think by them coming onto the podcast, that's doing me a favor, that's doing you a favor, right? But I think by having a promoter book that talent, I think specifically through seeing that person on the podcast, that promoter is then finding their social medias. They're then finding max clips of theirs, like on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, and then thinking, this guy will be, you know, pretty decent to book, you know, I'll send him a message, you know, blah, 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 you know, and then sort of like get him booked, like at this show, and then like they'll then meet other people on that show that they probably like, never met before, and then like they'll then like refer them to other promoters, and it turns into like a word of mouth type of thing, you know. Right, so it's just through that one podcast that can potentially put you out to a couple dozen different promoters, you know, and what have you. And yeah, you know, I'm quite lucky to have no end of contacts in British wrestling as well as the world as well. So even if I'm doing a podcast with somebody out in America, you know, and like a wrestler, and if an American promoter sees him, you know, again, like they might see him and then you know, book them. Do you know what I mean? You know, so it's not just the thing that's confined to the UK. You know, like yourself, you know, you've done podcasts with, you know, people like from like overseas, you know, and yeah, someone might have been booked like for shows through, you know, seeing them like on here. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
And and I tell people this all the time, and sometimes I have to kind of stop myself because I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it is the truth. I go by the old mantra. In wrestling, you find wrestling, when you leave it better than you found it.
Oh,
and to me, that means you have to help build up the younger talent. Everyone that does anything in wrestling, you need to help them because you want them to be the best. So the sport that we all love can continue after we're dead and gone. It keeps going and going and going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, what has been the most unusual podcast that you've done? Like afterwards, you was like, "This was crazy. I cannot believe this." Or it could have been the guest. It could have been the way the guest was acting, whatever. But what has been the craziest for you?
The craziest. As weird as it's going to sound, like a lot of podcasts that I've done, like a majority of podcasts that I've done, whether it be, you know, singular podcast or having guests on or whatever, have gone fairly straightforward, touch wood. But, you know, I don't know, really. I've never done a podcast that's got any backlash. I've never done a podcast that's, you know, with someone that's had, you know, given them like any sort of backlash. Or whatever, for saying something that shouldn't have done or whatever. Do you know what I mean? But I can't really say that I've had many sort of crazy experiences, to be fair. Obviously, you know, like having laughs with people, and like I had the UK Pitbulls, two of my very good friends in wrestling. And Mike, who's the Bulk, he played the Blob in the Deadpool and Wolverine film that came out year before last.
Oh, okay.
And this was just before he actually went out to go film, like being in it. And yeah, like, he had a part to play in that, and he was on like the credits and everything, and he spoke about his time in Dirty Sanchez, and what have you, which, so Mike, he's a big bloke, right? He's 36 now, right? And when he gets active, he, likes to sweat a lot and what have you. And there was an instance on this Dirty Sanchez program. Marilyn Manson, like the singer, was like a big fan of it, and it's basically of where Mike was in the nude a lot and having certain people have their faces put into certain areas, like whatever. Like, I just found that funny, that the fact that he was referencing all that on the podcast. But that was fun. But like, apart from hearing like crazy stories, like with people, I can't really say that I've had many crazy experiences, coming off and being like, oh, damn it, and so like I've had people come on, like I had a gentleman called Barrett Brown come on. He's previously wrestled for WWE. He was the leader of the Stray Dog Army in New Japan throughout COVID. And he was the final ever NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion before Billy Corgan had taken the NWA on and literally stripped everyone of the titles and literally only kept the World Heavyweight, which was held by Tim Storm at the time, the women's and the tag. Right. And Barrett told a story, and it was the first time, like, he said it for the first time publicly on the Nerdic Pro Podcast, that and he had literally saved the NWA a potential court date by the person who he beat for the NWA World Junior Heavyweight title never actually gave Barrett Brown the legitimate NWA World Junior Heavyweight title, because this bloke had a massive personal vendetta against the former vice president of the NWA, David Lugano, I think, like his name was.
Yeah.
So David Lugano reaches out to Barrett, being like, because Barrett had to physically send out the NWA World Junior Heavyweight title to the people at the NWA after everything was stripped, blah blah blah. And David Lugano reached out to Barrett, being like, so the title that you sent in, was that the title that you received the night you won it? Yeah. So could you send us all the photos and all the videos that you have of that match? Because the person who Barrett Brown beat still actually had the legitimate NWA World Junior Heavyweight title. So although Barrett Brown was the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion, he never actually held the legit championship. Right. And because of that, because of Barrett sending over a statement and what have you, he saved the NWA a potential court date, taking this guy to court and everything to actually get the title back. And that was the first time that story was ever made public. And so again, I came off that and I'm like, wow, you know what I mean? Like being told for the first time that the person who I've had on the podcast saved a company like the NWA a potential court date for someone still having the legitimate championship and not giving it to the person who it should have been held by. Do you know what I mean? And so that's wrestling for you. So
I think I like yourself. I've been very blessed. Most of my guests have been just really good and funny and different things. I think if I had two issues, one is having guests that you're trying to drag something out of them. It's like, okay, you're here, promote yourself. And they're just like sitting there. I'm like, okay, here you go. I give you a platform, go. And they answer the question in 2 seconds and they just sit there and look at me. I'm like, oh, geez. So but the one that really irritated me, and I was really pissed off, I had a person who was their LGBT, and we were having a great conversation, and someone sent in a comment and was definitely disrespectful. And I was like, and the person saw it and it was like, well, I don't even pay that any attention. I said, yeah, but you're on my show. So and I specifically called that person out. I was like, if you don't like the guests I have, if you do not like what I'm doing, they have this button called off. Use the damn thing. Don't you ever write back to my show insulting my guests like that again. And that, for me, I got so pissed off, not just for the fact that the person insulted it. You can believe whatever you want to believe. You can have any thought process you want. And again, everybody has opinions. That's fine. But if your opinion is disrespectful, do not send it on my show.
Yeah.
If you're,
I totally agree. Yeah.
If you don't like my show, don't watch it. There's a 1,000,000,001 different wrestling podcasts. Go find one.
Literally. Yeah.
Yes. Those two incidents were probably that's my craziest stories that I have.
I always say on the Nerdic Pro Podcast, I always keep politics and everything out the podcast. Everyone who works behind the scenes of the podcast, we've all got a group chat on Facebook Messenger. We've only got like a couple of rules. One of them is a 72-hour no spoiler rule. So you can't speak about shows that have happened or films that have come out and what have you for at least 72 hours after they've happened. And the other one, and not the other main one, is keep all your political beliefs, like your parliamentary government political beliefs, out. If you don't like it, like off your trot, right? And I've just now thought of something. So I did a podcast with the, at the time, ARWF Women's World Champion, Clara Carter. And there was some fake, troll person was saying about, seeing, pictures of people like in the nude and what have you. Neither me or Clara Carter and what have you. And it was just what the hell? A, who cares? And B, the wrong type of show to be commenting on stuff like that. And then I remember during, I can't remember which night it was, but we did, a few of us did a live reaction to Friday Night SmackDown on both nights of WrestleMania last year. And I can't remember on which specific stream it was, but it was one of those three, right? And plus as well, we did prediction podcast separate to them, on top of that. And it was one of them. Someone started commenting about the ongoing war in Palestine and Israel and what have you. And it's at the end of the day, it's got nothing to do with this podcast. Do you know what I mean? With the greatest of respect. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And yeah, so, and again, as you said, if people think that the podcast is a terrible podcast, that was one of my sort of setbacks to begin with. I was like, are people going to think that this is a crap podcast? Are people going to think that, I'm talking out the arse or whatever? But then I'm like, like literally, like as you said, if you don't like it, piss off elsewhere. You know what I mean? Yeah, like as you said, there's a billion, there's 1,000,000,001 different other wrestling podcasts and content creators on all social media platforms.
Oh yes.
You know, like there's no shortage of us. You know what I mean? There is no shortage of us at all. Go and find someone else. Do you know what I mean? That like to go and find. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, so
and that's what I think what I enjoy, especially with this appreciation thing, is talking to other podcasters and getting their experience on different things. Like one of the big things, and I know you know what I'm talking about when I say this, the tribalism of wrestling. Oh God, you know, WWE is the greatest thing ever, and AEW is the top, and if you don't like it, you're dumb, you suck.
Yeah. Mate, I've come across no end of people that I know that literally live 2 minutes down the road from me, to people that I know through doing podcasts with, and people that I know through wrestling, thinking that their opinion on wrestling is the best thing since sliced bread. And it's people saying, like as you said, AEW is better than WWE, WWE is better than AEW. Their left foot is better, you know, like entertaining than watching either company or whatever. It's just like with me, I'm just a wrestling fan. Do you know what I mean? I watch Raw every week. I watch NXT every week. I watch SmackDown every week. I watch Dynamite every week. I watch Collision every week. You know, I try and watch TNA most weeks. You know, as well as, you know, MLW. I'm a massive pro wrestling Noah mark. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
You know, I'm a big fan of New Japan as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot of wrestling that I don't watch. You know, like I watch like a lot of the British Indies. I work in the British Indies, so I kind of, you know, have to, you know, become sort of privy to like the British Indies. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And it's just like, mate, if you don't like that product, A, don't watch it, and B, who cares? Do you know what I mean? You know, oh mate. Plus as well, I'm in a million different wrestling fan page group things, whatever you want to call them, on Facebook, and it's literally like an hourly occurrence where a post gets put up by someone who's got nothing better to do with their time than to slag off a wrestling promotion, or to slag off Tony Khan, or to slag off Triple H, Nick Khan, Vince McMahon, whoever. And it's like, mate, have you really got nothing else better to do with your time? Do you know what I mean? You know, go get a job. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, you know. But yeah. So yeah. My opinion on all that is, for God's sake, like, just watch wrestling. Do you know what I mean? You know, and yeah, you know, like you don't get this level of hatred towards like another side in, you know, things like the NFL or football or soccer, do you? Do you know what I mean?
No.
You know, yeah. So,
and the one thing too that I like you said, I'm all over the place with wrestling.
Yeah,
I enjoy wrestling, and this is the biggest thing I think, learning with doing the podcast that I've learned. Like you said, everybody think they have the greatest opinion and know what's going to save wrestling.
yeah.
All I have is my opinion.
Yeah.
This is what I usually tell people. Hey, this is my opinion.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't like. I tell people all the time. A lot of times, I have a lot of criticism for WWE.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean I don't watch WWE.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I don't have the WWE does everything wrong. They wouldn't be the freaking biggest wrestling company if they didn't do things right. So I get it, but some things, certain wrestling styles that I like better than others.
Yeah, exactly.
And like AEW, I'm more drawn to it because it reminds me of WCW and the early NWA territory days. That's what I grew up on. So I'm a fan of it. But it doesn't mean every match I have to watch has to go into that same story. Sometimes I like chaos. I love the fast-paced tag team action. Sometimes I do like the flip-de-doo 6 times and stuff, but it's what I like at the time, and I try to be open on any styles like hardcore wrestling. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes I feel like it's unnecessary. Again, we all have different takes and stuff. And where I think that myself, people like you, is that we get it. And we tell our fans, hey, this is our opinion. Do what you want with it. We're not telling you to love it or hate it. We're just telling you what we see from the years of experience that we have.
Yeah.
That's it. And
if I had a penny for every time that I said this is my opinion when reviewing something that's happened in wrestling, I would never need to work another day in my life. Do you know what I mean? As I would be a very, very wealthy man. Do you know what I mean? You know, it's like, I'm going to repeat what I said like a minute ago. I watch Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, Collision, NXT, blah, 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 every single week. Right? I listen to the Jim Cornette Experience and Drive Through every week. I listen to Dave Meltzer regularly. I listen to the podcasts that Sean Ross Sapp, Fightful, you know, like when I can. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because of the fact I'm a wrestling fan. Do you know what I mean? You know, I'm not an idiot, like if you want to like call it that. Do you know what I mean? You know, some people may think that like I'm a bit of an idiot, but that's besides the point. Yeah, so but like to get what I'm saying, you know, it's
definitely.
If you like, if I come across like just like a random TV show, and if I don't like it, I'm not gonna plaster all over Facebook saying that this TV show is god awful and it deserves to be taken off the air. Do you know what I mean? If I don't like it, I'll sit there watching it for a few minutes, decide that I don't like it, and then put someone else on. Do you know what I mean? You know, I'm not going to waste my time slacking it off like all over social media because I've got better things to do like with my life. Do you know what I mean? You know, so yeah.
And then as a podcaster, I never imagined that the politics can be just as bad as wrestling. It's like we're all trying to do something. Doesn't mean we can't be respectful and hey, come on to my show. You can hopefully maybe some of my fans will like, hey, I like him. I'm gonna start watching his show. Or maybe some of your viewers who were watching is like, hey, Professor pretty funny. Let me watch some of it. We're all trying to get to a place. There's enough space for all of us. We can work together. Or even if you don't want to work with another podcast, you don't want to deal with anybody else. And that's your opinion.
Yeah.
You do not have to trash them. And be so negative. God, it amazes me how negative and people be so vindictive for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, physically doing shows like what have you, the politics behind the scenes in wrestling itself. You've never seen anything like it. You know, there's so many two-faced people in wrestling. Like, you know, but I'm the sort of person where I don't want to fall out with people. I'm happy to work with anyone. You know, But if you continuously slate people off and what have you, granted, if you don't care over someone, fine. You know, don't shove it down my throat. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
You know, you're not giving me you're not giving me a reason as to why I should also think that this person's a scumbag. Do you know what I mean? You know, and it's just so much of this as well. You know, talk and like basically just like games of like Chinese whispers and what have you, and gossip and what have you. And with all that, it's just like I can't be bothered. Do you know what I mean? When it comes to a podcast, I'd rather just click live, do the podcast, have a laugh with who I'm doing the podcast with, and then be done with it. And then when it comes to a show, I'd rather go work a show, have fun, have a laugh with everyone on the show, and have a laugh with the fans, blah blah blah, and then go home. Do you know what I mean? I haven't got the time or energy to be dealing with all like the backstage politics. Do you know what I mean? You know, because so and so said this, and so said that, and so so's done this, and so so's done, and it's just like, mate, I don't care. Do you know what I mean? I could not give less of a damn. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
So, at something it seemed like every show that I've done this, I will make the QR code. The guys, girls, there is a QR code, as you have noticed. This is a link to your podcast, so people can go and check out your shows. And one thing you brought up that I really do enjoy is that you're not just wrestling based, like you said. You have so many different things there. So if you say you and your girlfriend or wife or whatever, y'all could actually watch and like, oh, I'm not into wrestling. Oh, I am into music. Oh, wow, they have that. And there's so much. And that I meant I need to get myself better when I start off these podcasts. The QR code is for my guests, so you can link to their site and check them out. One day,
thank you very much for that. Right. Yeah.
One day I'm gonna get it right.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem. But my question is, you've been doing this quite a while now. What is your goal for the future with your podcast?
My goal for the future is literally just to have fun, really. I literally started it, back to when I first started it and started Nerdic Pro Weekly. That is currently, so this week's episode going live this Friday at 7:30 p.m. UK time on the Nerdic Pro Podcast YouTube channel. That will, I believe, be the 217th week of Nerdic Pro Weekly. When I first started out, I was like, if I get one view, I'm going to be over the moon, right? You know, because at least that one person has taken the time out their day to listen to me ramble on about whatever the hell it is I'm speaking about. And, you know, I've never really set goals for the podcast. I've been very grateful to the dozens and dozens and dozens of people that have come on throughout the last 6 years. Do you know what I mean? And my end goal, if I were to wake up tomorrow morning and decide, right, the Nerdic Pro Podcast is ending, which I'm not going to, I can tell you that now. But if I were to decide to do that, I would have had a blast and thought couldn't have gone no better, because I genuinely don't think it could have gone any better. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, just try to have fun, and if I could become up to, you know, if the Nerdic Pro Podcast can get on to, you know, Chris Van Vliet level or Dave Meltzer level or Jim Cornette level, happy days. Do you know what I mean? You know, we've just recently hit 700 followers on Facebook. Currently got 130 some odd subscribers on YouTube. One thing that has annoyed me though, we started going originally way back when all podcasts of the Nerdic Pro were live on Facebook. And then last year at some point, Facebook had deleted all live streams over the age of 30 days, which I was able to salvage a few podcasts, but I weren't able to salvage all of them. And I was able to put up a lot of podcasts up onto the YouTube channel.
Right.
I was fuming when they did that. Absolutely fuming. A lot of interviews are now no longer there. A lot of podcasts, the time and effort and whatever that was put into all that, I was, mate. But hey ho. So I think so now we're under like the 2.0 era of the Nerdic Pro Podcast, going live every week on YouTube. As I said, this week is, I believe, the 217th week of Nerdic Pro Weekly. And my end goal, to have fun. You know what I mean? As I've had a blast in the past 6 years. Everyone who currently works behind the scenes on the Nerdic Pro Podcast and comes on as co-hosts couldn't ask for a better team. Do you know what I mean? And I genuinely couldn't. Do you know what I mean? Everyone has been like an absolute godsend. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, it's just, I didn't think I'd enjoy it as much as what I have done, but I think to have done it for 6 years, near enough, I think says, so it'll be 6 years this summer. I think 6 years is to have done it religiously as well as done 217 consecutive weeks, over 4 years worth of a continuous weekly podcast as well. I think says a lot, you know what I mean?
Oh,
But that's, happy days. So, yeah.
So my main goal is for having a wrestling podcaster appreciation is to give credit to different podcasters. If I could, I would have every different podcaster on. I can't, but the ones I do have on, I am very appreciative for what you do, because it is keeping the sport we love alive.
Yeah.
It gives so many people that may not be able to get to the Chris Van Vliets or, like you said, the Jim Cornettes, but you can come on ours and do something and get your name out there. And I'm very appreciative of that. And I believe in giving people their flowers when they're alive, not after they're dead and gone. They can't enjoy it. I like to do that and give appreciation. So from me and from so many different wrestling fans, thank you. And I'm so appreciative that you are willing to come on the show and we have this conversation. And for anyone else, this gentleman told me that people listen to my stuff in the UK. It was mind blowing.
Yeah. So to go on to that, first of all, I just want to say I think it's a very good thing that you're doing, putting more eyes onto more different wrestling podcasts, as like the bigger podcasts may not be everyone's cup of tea, as they say. So again, and like as I've said, to me, wrestling is the best thing to ever exist. Do you know what I mean? And again, when you're doing interviews with people, it's the case of you get to hear stories that they have, working with people and working, and like interviewing wrestlers, like you get to hear their road stories and behind the scenes stuff. Do you know what I mean? So working like as a podcast host, it gives I'm sure it does to you as well. Like interviewing people, it gives people like a personal pleasure hearing these stories told to you. Do you know what I mean? On your platform. Do you know what I mean? And you know, I've worked with ex-WWE talent. I've worked with people who've held titles for the NWA and what have you, and really big names in the UK and what have you, and people that I had like grown up watching, and getting to hear these stories is just like, wow. Do you know what I mean? And like you forget that you're doing a podcast after time. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, and it's just like, mate, and yeah, and well, I think it's a very good thing that you're doing. Bringing various different podcasts together. As we've said a bit earlier on, you can't even count the amount of wrestling podcasts that there are. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And yeah, but yeah, it's mad. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, like it's good to speak to other podcast hosts and and what have you. Do you know what I mean? And when you were saying about like me like watching you, I hate myself for it, but I legit cannot remember what interview it was that you did with someone. I showed that I was refereeing on a show for 8 to 10 months back, and like I showed them like a clip of like what the person said, like in the podcast that you hosted. For the life of me, I can't remember who it was, what they were saying, but it was from you, and and I'm like, oh, I hate my life, and yeah, so. But yeah, like I've subscribed to the Wrestling Society Network for ages. Followed you on Facebook for ages and like what have you. And like, I must say, it's an absolute pleasure to be able to sit here and speak to you tonight. And and obviously chat about wrestling because, as I've said before, and I'll gladly say it again, wrestling is the best goddamn thing on planet Earth, and I hate anyone who says otherwise. So, yeah,
I love it. Again, I'm so grateful that you were willing to come on the show. We have some fun, and we're gonna have to do this again sometime.
Oh, most certainly. Anytime, you're more than welcome on the Nerdic Pro Podcast. So yeah. And yeah, because I'll gladly have you on, and because honestly, this has been a blast, and yeah, so yeah, this is what I mean. I just love speaking about wrestling, and this is the thing, like I'm on the spectrum, as they say, right, and once you get me going about anything, like you wish like you never like got me started to begin with, because I will literally just sit there and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. I literally have these full of notes, these 2 notepads full of notes about wrestling. I've got a folder somewhere that is literally like that fat, full of more notes about wrestling, fantasy booking, and notes about like reviews of like wrestling shows that I've watched throughout the years, and fantasy booking, like I did one of fantasy booking, like a feud between Gorgeous George, the wrestler from like the 50s and 60s, right? In a feud with Ric Flair, right? And fantasy booking like how that would have turned out, and like a million different other things. And I kid you not, that folder is literally this fat, right, full to the brim of notes, right? I love wrestling. Like there's funny, like there's no tomorrow. And yeah, once you get me going, like I hope that you've got like a hotel room booked like somewhere close. Yeah, so yeah.
It is so funny that you say that, because as a kid, I was so into wrestling so much that my dad would love wrestling too. So if I wanted some like a wrestling ring, he would get it for me. He didn't have a problem. So I had an AWA wrestling ring, and I had all my action figures playing different stuff. One day I sat there and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna make my own company. I took all my action figures, wrote their names down, and then okay, I need a tag team. I made tag team. I had my pay-per-views. I had the tournament for the titles. And to this day, I still have those lists of that stuff. And, like you, if I
did exactly that as well.
If I pan my camera around, I have VCR tapes of wrestling shows. I got DVDs. I have so much wrestling memorabilia.
Yeah,
that is ridiculous. So it's something when you're a real fan like us, you appreciate it. You know, and you can be anywhere in the world. I don't care where you are. You can barely understand each other, but you understand when someone says wrestling. It's like, what? Oh, okay.
The amount of people that I've passed in the street, right, wherever, you know, I don't know the person from Adam, right, but they'll be wearing like a Bullet Club top or, you know, like a lesser known, you know, even like where was I? Like I was going to a show somewhere. And I bumped into somebody on the train. They were literally just going to work and they had a Pro Wrestling Noah show on. And I literally spent the next half an hour sat on that train talking to them about Mitsuharu Misawa, like starting up Pro Wrestling Noah. And it's just like, with no intention of seeing this person ever again, like in my entire life. But the fact that I spent like the next 20 minutes, half an hour on that train speaking to them like about wrestling, it's like, my God. Do you know what I mean? You know, and it's like I've never really been a collector of stuff, but over the past sort of like 6 months, I have been collecting various bits and pieces, right? So like bitty WWE Funko Pops that I've got, right? I've got a few of them. Like there's a Loot Crate thing that you can get here in the UK called Wrestle Crate, right? Which is coincidentally.
Oh yeah. Oh look. I tell you, I'm religious on Wrestle Talk. Every morning I get up, I always got to have either Luke or I got to have, if it ain't Luke, it better be Ollie or somebody. If I don't see it, my day doesn't feel complete. It don't.
Yeah.
And here's my dream goal in podcasting. I want to get them to interview. I've reached out to them, and I know I'm just small time, but I'm like, I just want them, please. Just give me 15. Look, okay, you can't give me 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, like I've watched Wrestle Talk. I couldn't even tell you how many years, and I'm religiously listening like to their podcast and watching their stuff like the main channel and like what have you. And it's great people over there. Do you know what I mean? There's a guy who does a lot of their like Quizlemania stuff that they do. Ethan Lawrence. And he's done a couple of like acting bits and pieces with Ricky Gervais, right?
Okay.
He was in Afterlife with Ricky Gervais. He was in a program series called Bad Education with Jack Whitehall and Matthew Horn, and a company that I ref for down in Essex, down in Braintree, CXW. He's a fairly-ish well-known actor, Ethan Lawrence. He comes down to manage quite a few wrestlers on these shows. And and there was a match that I refed. It was Leonardo Darwin versus someone. I ended up taking a bump, and Ethan ended up getting involved in a match and like what have you, like in the match and what have you. So I physically refed a match that has had an actor in it that's worked with Jack Whitehall, Matthew Horn, Ricky Gervais, etc. And I don't like to body shame people, but if you don't know who Ethan Lawrence is the fat kid that's in Bad Education and Afterlife. So yeah. And as well, he's on the Wrestle Talk as well. And yeah, so.
Well, again, thank you so much. It's been amazing. I love the stories and learning about how you became and what you're doing. Continue success, continue doing what you're doing, and I hope you have another 10, 15 years of it.
I must say, I wish you all the very best as well. And it's been a blast. You know, I know I've referenced it quite a few times on this podcast, but thanks to the podcast as well, that got me started up as a ref in wrestling as well. I've worked with people like Eugene, who's a former WWE Tag Team Champion because of it. Having worked the show with him. You know, worked with Saxon Huxley, Melly McKenzie, no end of British wrestling greats, and a few imports as well. Having physically refed these people is because of the podcast. Do you know what I mean? I started up as a ref because of the podcast. I'm somewhat known in British wrestling, somewhat because of the podcast. Do you know what I mean? I've got lifelong friends in wrestling because of the podcast and what have you. Had I never have started up the podcast, I would have never have become a ref. I'd have never have met so many amazing people through the podcast and through reffing. Do you know what I mean? And what have you? And it's just, mate, as I said, when I first started out, I'd have been happy with just one viewer. Do you know what I mean? You know, and have it turned into having, you know, like I did a podcast about a month and a half ago, with two guys called Russ Jackman and Evan Ginsberg on the Wrestling from Coast to Coast podcast.
Yes. They're going to be on too. They're going to be on the show too.
Yeah. So Evan Ginsberg, he was the main producer for the film The Wrestler, which was nominated for an Oscar. And he was also the main producer for the documentary of 350 Days, I believe it was called.
Yes,
Bret
sir.
Hart was on it. Ted DiBiase was on it. I think no end of, you know, like a million of like the all-time greats are on it. And he was the main producer on that. And I physically went onto his podcast because of the Nerdic Pro Podcast. He also worked on someone else, which, and like a few other bits and pieces. And the fact that now he was the producer, like the main producer for a film that was nominated for an Oscar, you know what I mean? It's like
it's mind blowing. It's mind blowing.
Yeah, exactly. I do need to organise with Russ and Evan to come onto the Nerdic Pro Podcast together, like at some point. And because honestly, we did that. Like it was morning for me here. It was literally 3:00 one like Saturday morning or like one Friday morning. Or whatever, like when we did it, and like we didn't finish till like 4:00 that morning. And, so like that was fun, and so anything for wrestling, though. Do you know what I mean? You know, and I'd happily die for the business as well. And so
that is the perfect way of ending this show. We believe anything for wrestling because we are that passionate. So, guys, girls, thank you so much for watching. I hope y'all are having as much fun as I am doing these interviews, getting to talk to so many great people and learning their journey in the business. As I always do before we leave a show, please go support your local indie shows. If nothing else, I'm not telling you that it's better or worse than the majors. What I'm telling you is you'll get a whole different experience that I think will make you appreciate wrestling just a little bit more. So please support your local indie wrestling. With that being said, I am Professor Bear. This is A Bear's Thought, and we will be back around the campfire for another great story very, very soon. Y'all take care.